my biggest goal in life is to teach and preach that you have to create more than you learn, because learning is a consumption activity, right? You're consuming stuff, other people's podcasts, books, and videos and so on, but that is not going to get you to where you want to be. So you have to create more than you learn, and you have to promote more than you create.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi and welcome to the My Future Business Show. It's Rick Nusky, and today do I have a very, very special guest. I'm on the line with Ravi Jayagopal. How are you, Ravi?
Hey, doing great, Rick. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, now look, I've worked with Vina from DAP some time ago. I've purchased many of their products, their wonderful products, and today we're going to deep dive into, I guess, Ravi's way of thinking in terms of product creation, content creation, and just his life experience in terms of where he's located, what he loves to do when he's not working, which I wonder if there's any time for anything other than working. And generally, we're going to take a deep dive into podcasting. So welcome to the show, Ravi.
Thank you so much.
So you're located in San Diego?
Correct.
Fantastic. And right now, my presumption is that you are busy creating book number 8.
No, I have my my mind map ready, my Wonderlist to do, which is now Microsoft To Do, but I have all the chapters, names, and everything else ready for my next 2 or 3 books.
Fantastic.
But I'm going to take a little break. I just released, a month ago, my 7th book, so I'm not yet rushing into that. I want to promote it more, get more reviews and stuff like that, and build a list and things like that. So
you are a prolific content creator, and you have a very strong presence online. Now, people who know you, I guess from a surface level, would know most your work with Digital Access Pass, but you are so much more than that. I know this from fact because you are a software developer and you are a business coach, which I'd love to talk about. But I think one of the first things I'd love to do, if I could, Ravi, is learn a little bit about what you do in your pastime for recreation.
For recreation?
Yes.
So that's the beauty of falling in love so much with what you do for work, is that I find work itself a big time recreation. So that's one part of it, because I don't consider work as work, right? It's all play. When I'm creating a new plugin, I'm just as excited as, I would be, playing basketball or something. So, but my biggest pastimes would be, my whole family and we are huge NBA basketball fans.
Yes.
So we watch a lot of basketball during the regular season. Now everything is out for the quarantine, but my wife and I are big time LeBron James fans. We watch a lot of NBA basketball. Our team, mainly LeBron's teams. So whenever he's been on different teams, we follow him. And so that would be the first thing. And now with no basketball and being under quarantine, we play pool every day. It's usually mornings, or my son and my wife, Veena, will go at it. And then in the evenings, Veena and I will have a game. My daughter's not so much, but she loves coding. So she'll come and we'll just hang out and we'll work on some programming stuff, her school stuff. So just hanging out with the family, that's my most exciting thing to do in life, is just hanging out and having food and watching movies or whatever it is, just hanging out with them.
You seem very grounded in terms of, what's important for your life. You're not shooting for the stars where you may have been in the past. It's not all about money. It's all about, the experience of life, isn't it?
Absolutely. So my father, he was a Indian film legend, rest in peace. So he reached some pretty dizzying levels of fame in India, but unfortunately he came at a time when fortune did not follow fame. People were not getting paid back then in India for movies and stuff. If today, he would be equivalent to, some really big shot writer and director, like, you can name any celebrity and he would be like that. But when he passed away, you realize that the number of people who came to his funeral and everything else at the time, nothing else mattered than how much what he did meant to other people. So at the end of the day, money is great to have. Obviously, the people usually who say money doesn't matter usually have enough of it. I understand the irony of that.
Yeah.
But if you can choose between killing yourself 18, 20 hours a day, sacrificing your sleep, health, family, and then making money, that's not worth it. So I found a good balance, and I realized that legacy and the impact we leave behind is much more important than money. So I have kind of scaled down my activities over the years to reflect that.
Yes, thank you so much for, and this is where the value for the My Future Business audience comes from, Ravi, because we talk about things that are real. We talk about those professionals who have started from nothing, which we all do. We come up with an idea and we just run with it, and it seems to evolve from there. Now, I wonder, are you still doing ventriloquism?
I only use it to like little. I have a TikTok. I created a TikTok account called Wilson the Wise One. That's the name of my Guruji puppet. It's somewhere here in the room. And so every now and then I'll get a tinge of creativity, and I'll bring out Wilson and do a little video, like a joke or a dad joke or some kind of a lame thing, and put it out. So I probably have about 7 to 8 videos, but I'm not. It's not a serious passion. It's just a side thing, and every now and then I'll bring it out on a live video just to get some attention, get people to say, what, there's a puppet on the screen, things like that. So yeah, I'll have a little bit of fun here and there, but that's pretty much it,
That's
though I would
wonderful.
love to do more.
Now, I know that you have taken your ventriloquism to the stage as well as a professional speaker, and you've done a fair bit of talking on stage. And what was that like for you? Was that a confronting experience at all, or was that something that came natural for you?
Oh, you mean the ventriloquism part, or
Oh,
the
just
general speaking?
just general speaking, but if I recall correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, is that at one stage you took your puppet on stage?
Yes, I did. Once I was asked to introduce another speaker, and they gave me a script saying this is what you have to say about this, and I said, uh, forget that. I'm gonna come up with a much better way to introduce. So I brought my Guruji puppet on stage, and we had a little skit, and I weaved the guest intro into that script, and I insulted the audience a little bit, and the usual comedian stuff. And where the Guruji puppet asks, "Hey, who are all these podcasters? Who are all these guys?" This was at a podcast movement event, so there's all podcasters in the audience. So the puppet says, "Who are all these guys? Looks like they're all from a MLM convention where nobody is making money, but everybody is cheering for the other person." Right? That's what the multi-level marketing people do, right? Yeah, I've been to a couple of those, dragged to a couple of those. Anyway, so yeah, it was fun. But speaking, yeah, from childhood, my parents raised me to be on stage, and they pushed me on stage. It took me a while, right? Because I wasn't. They signed me up for plays and all kinds of acts and musicals and this and that in India growing up. So my fear of the stage went away from a very early age. So I've never feared being on stage, and because I'm kind of self-deprecating in many ways, I don't care people judging me for my appearance or for my accent or whatever. So
Yeah.
a combination of those two is pretty powerful, because the biggest thing people fear on stage is, oh my God, everybody's looking at me. What if I look weird or say something weird, or what if I can't, act weird, or what if I stumble? But when you're kind of shameless, to say, so to speak, right?
Hmm.
You don't care what people think, what people say. You don't. You're already making fun of yourself. You're self-deprecating. you make fun of your own weight and my accent and everything else, then it doesn't matter. Then it
Yeah.
becomes like a stand-up routine. So I was able to focus on public speaking a lot more because of the lack of public speaking from stage.
You've transcended all of those boundaries, haven't you? It must have been a wonderfully empowering experience to say, hey, look, once you walked off that stage for the first time, hey, I did it.
Absolutely, it is such a high. It's almost like getting off of a roller coaster ride, and you get the rush. And if you do a good job, they're cheering for you. And I've also been at the other end where my friends and I we once got together, random guys who never met each other, uh, got together for a competition, and we played music, and we were so bad. People were throwing stuff at us, and we got booed off the stage. And to this day, every time we all come into each other's contact or something, call somebody, and we all laugh about it. That was the worst experience. But even back then, we were like, hey, what the heck?
What do you
It's
do?
what do you do? We were terrible. We were terrible. We actually didn't even expect to get on stage, but they somehow were led us on, and we got what we deserved.
You know, this is why I knew this was going to be a fun call, because even in your writing, I can feel your tone come through. I can feel your humor and, your light-hearted approach to everything. And it's a credit to you because it makes people smile. You may not see that. So just thank you very much for all of your wonderful emails that you send through. Now, I'd love to talk a little bit about your prolific content creation and where you get all of your energy from. You must have a very busy mind.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I have a hard time falling asleep because my mind is always racing, and I have to pull some meditation tricks and mind calming tricks even to fall asleep,
Hmm.
and which has been getting harder and harder of late because with more time on my hands because of the quarantine
Yep.
and fewer distractions, I find myself being get more shiny objects, having to deal with more distractions at work, not just outside distractions, but just
Hmm.
the sheer number of thoughts and ideas that I could execute on. I have to constantly keep staving them off. So yeah, it's just that I'm so deeply plugged into my niche because I'm so passionate. It's a combination of uh, w- I love what I do. I do what I love, kind of thing, right? And I'm
Hmm.
passionate about that, and I'm always uh, and one of my biggest it's a curse and a blessing that I'm such a information junkie that I'm constantly reading, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, trying to learn. And but I want to, my biggest goal in life is to teach and preach that you have to execute, you have to do more than you learn. So you have to create more than you learn, because
Hmm.
learning is a consumption activity, right? You're consuming stuff, other people's podcasts, books, and videos, and so on. But that is not going to get you to where you want to be. So you have to create more than you learn, and you have to promote more than you create. So that's one of my personal mantras. So it's all constant struggle to say, hey, I would love to read this blog post about this new thing, what about whatever. It's all in the technology space. I don't get distracted with other things.
Hmm.
Try to stay very focused in my niche, because knowing uh, my taste for learning all kinds of weird stuff, I know I can easily get distracted. So I have to be more careful with my blinders
Yep.
and make sure they stay in place. And even within my niche, I can tend to get distracted very easily. So I have to constantly keep reminding myself what is important to me. And the more I stay in my niche, follow forums and articles, I answer a lot of questions in Facebook groups, in Quora.com, and all these answer sites. And I'm reading through threads and trying to understand what people are talking about. And that gives me a lot of food for thought for my own ideas. And then as and when I get even the slightest idea for an article or for a content video, or even a joke I come across for a Guruji puppet video, I'll put that in my to-do list. And I have literally thousands and thousands and thousands of ideas in my to-do items a to-do list all neatly categorized, because every time I get an idea, I'll say this is for my podcast. I'll stop running or doing the dishes or whatever I'm doing. I'll stop and I will dry my hands if necessary. If I'm doing the dishes, I will pull out my phone and put idea down right away in the right category, because I will lose it, because I get so many ideas all the time.
Yeah.
It's like a fire hose, and if I don't note it down, then I'll always constantly live in FOMO, fear of missing out. That's what people tend to get distracted, because they come across this awesome thread on Facebook. They'll be like, oh my God, I got to make sure I do this right now.
Yeah.
Instead, just bookmark that page. Every post can be bookmarked in Facebook. I have a massive number of bookmarks in Facebook. So every time I come across a thread, which I know I can answer later,
Yeah.
I will click the three little dots and save post, and then I'll put it under answer later if I have to go back in and respond something that I can add value to. Or if it is something for fun, I'll say random stuff. If it is something about podcasting or video or marketing, whatever, I have all these categories. So I'm constantly uh, reading and consuming, which gives me ideas. Then I'm noting it down.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I'm ready to create something, I have a barrage of information ready to go, all the categories. And then I'll create a mind map, which is unbelievable, the greatest tool for brainstorming, because and it also helps that I can type very fast. So I've been telling a lot of people that during this quarantine, go ahead and make sure you learn typing, because if you can type without
Mm-hmm.
having to look at your keyboard, then you can literally type, note down stuff and create stuff at this almost at the speed of thought.
Yeah.
So use the mind map, and boom, 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 I can create a whole bunch of trees and everything else. And now I have a table of contents for whatever it is I'm creating, whether it's a Kindle book or video course or my podcast. So I have enough content for the next several hundred years.
And you've given away some of the answers there. In understanding the problems that people are facing, you're essentially being able to create the solution, then deliver it as a product in the end. Ultimately, that's really what's happening, isn't it? In many respects.
Right. So there's always these two schools of thought. One is product first, audience later,
Mm-hmm.
and then, or the other side is create an audience first and then create products for them. But if you can't just create an audience for the sake of building an audience, right? So you have to decide your niche first. So when it's for your very first product, it helps to build the product first, because that's usually what your strong strengths are, and that's usually your strong suit. So you create the product first, and then hopefully you can find your audience. Because if you are new to online marketing, selling online and all this stuff, and if you've never built an audience before, and you say I'll build an audience first and then figure out products for them, you may not create product for the next 3 years,
Yeah.
because it takes a long time to build an audience, whether it is through podcasting or YouTube or anything like that. So for me, I don't have to worry about that, because I've been doing this for so many years now, since 1997
Mm-hmm.
was when I created my first website. So I don't have to worry about my audience, because it's the same. I don't switch my niche. It's been the same niche. So that gives me the ability to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And so I stay within the digital marketing, digital content marketing
Space. Yep.
niche space. And now I can worry only about podcast, YouTube, audio, video, PDF, Kindle, that kind of stuff. So I'm constantly getting ideas for what people's concerns are, and that gives me a way to quickly come up with something for that people with answers to that specific solution. And one of my strengths is that I have this theory that I call brilliant 5, blah 95. So it's similar to the 80-20 rule, but it's more like 5-95.
Yep.
And usually 5% of your content will provide 95% of value, right?
Yep.
And 95% of the blah, I call it the blah, will only provide 5% value. So it's a brilliant 5, blah 95. So I try to, whenever I create something, I try to address the brilliant 5 first, give them the best stuff ahead of time, and then blah 95, you can follow it up if you have time, or you can save it for later or give it away as an external Kindle book or bonus or whatever it is. But
Hmm.
so when you focus on the 5% that provides 95% of the value, your courses don't have to be too long. You don't have to have 70 videos in your course. Just 3 videos, or one 20-minute video, or one 50-page ebook, or one podcast episode for 20 minutes can give them concentrated value, which means you spend more time getting everything down to the concentrate,
Hmm.
but ultimately it provides the quickest value for your audience. So you don't have to worry about writing a 300-page ebook or a 45 video course or a 30-day email course or whatever it is. So everything comes, the timeline is shortened. I believe in speed and efficiency and execution. So
Yeah.
everything gets concentrated down, and then you just give them one thing that matters and not everything. So if when I wrote a book about podcasting, it does not go into the history of podcasting, what podcasting means to the
Yeah.
industry,
Yeah.
why you should start a podcast, none of that fluff, right?
Yeah.
Because if somebody is buying a book on how to create a podcast, they don't need to know, you don't need to sell them on the benefits of podcasting,
Yeah. And
right?
how
So
microphones are made and all that sort of jazz.
right. No, it's you talk only about the bare minimum stuff, right? What kind of microphones should you use? What kind of show are you going to have? What are the questions to ask before you start a podcast? Blah blah blah. So keep it down to the basics,
Yeah.
and not about podcasting has been around since 2005, and here's what has happened to other people who did a podcast. They don't need that. They
Nobody
already
cares
know
about that. Yeah.
they already know they want to start a podcast. So
Yeah.
same thing with everything. When somebody wants to do something, you have to think about what stage of the life cycle they are in and what stage of life cycle that you are creating the content for. So my content has never been about here's why you should start a podcast or here's why you should start a YouTube. It's not that. It's already people wanting to know, how do I build my audience? I know I can do all these things, but how do I build it? Or I want to create audio, how do I create it? Or I want to create video, how do I create it? So
Yeah.
they're already in that, they're higher up in the Maslow's hierarchy, so to
Of
speak,
needs, so to speak. Yep.
right? So I do not go to the beginner level,
Yep.
even though some, because I assume some level of awareness and skill and savviness, and that's who my content is for. Because I'm not going to tell you, click start. You look at that Windows kind of thing there in the left corner
Yep.
bottom of. I can't.
Foundational
I
stuff.
Yeah, I do not do the foundational stuff. It's people who already know they need to do something, but they just don't know the how.
Yep.
That's my audience right there.
Thank you so much, Ravi. I'm really, really appreciating this because the My Future Business audience are startup entrepreneurs and small to medium sized business owners. And this is going to be a hand in glove experience for them from somebody who's been doing this for a long time and very, very well, might I add. Now, given that we are, for the most part, solo entrepreneurs in this particular audience, and there are so many different digital opportunities, let's call them, and we have this omnipresent potential for distraction that sees us doing nothing. Ultimately, we've got all these great plans, we've siloed them into the different things. You've got your ebooks and you've got this and you've got that. Where should people start? What should be their options? Should they have three? Should they focus on one? What would you tell them to start with?
The very first thing would be to figure out your niche, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the thing that drives you? Because today you really need to be an expert if you want to be successful. You cannot fake it till you make it, like you could do 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Just because a bunch of people send emails on your behalf will not make you an established, credible expert in your field. You really have to know your stuff really well, because you have to create tons and tons of content. You have to create content for your blogs, for SEO, and for people who come to your website. You have to be able to, I'm not saying you should do all this on day one,
Mm-hmm.
but you should be able to see yourself doing all of this over time. So you would need to create content for your blog, write articles, blog posts, and you will need to, that's for SEO. You will need to create videos, because YouTube is the world's second biggest, largest search engine,
Mm-hmm.
which also happens to be getting results in the world's first largest search engine called Google. So you'll see the YouTube listings there too. So you need to be able to create videos. and which again you can repurpose a lot of this content, so you don't have to get overwhelmed with thinking, oh my god, I have to do all this. But there are ways to do this, and you'll still have to do it, because once you create a video, you can take the video, you can cut it down to 60 seconds, post it on Instagram. You could even post it on TikTok. TikTok is not, a lot of people have mistakenly think TikTok is only for silly teenagers doing lip syncing videos. It's not. Every platform is how we curate it. If you only keep liking silly dance videos, TikTok will keep showing you only silly dance videos. But
Through their
if you
algorithms. Yep.
yeah, if you follow jewelry making videos, you will only get artwork and paintings and drawing and sketching and cartoons, or whatever your passion is. If you only follow guitar people, you will only get guitar videos. So it's
Yep.
fantastic, and it's all 10-15 seconds. So whatever you want, you can whatever you're passionate about, you can follow that anyway. So you can create videos, you can upload to all these platforms, the same content, the same video, you can upload to all of them. So I would say you need to be able to be an expert, because you need to create content for your blogs, for your videos, for social media, for your lead magnets to give away, to build a list. You need to be able to write Kindle books. So you need to be able to do that. And everything starts with being a true expert, your 10,000 hour thing,
Yep.
whatever it is that you're good at. And once you do that, so you know your niche, you know what you can create content for years together without getting burned out, without thinking, what am I going to do, what next. So with that out of the way, the next thing is, where is your audience and who is your audience? So you have to know. A lot of people make the mistake of saying, everybody is in my audience. It's not possible.
Mm.
Okay, you have to have an audience avatar. You have to know, even if you don't drill it down to exact age, sex, and type of person, how much debt they have. You don't have to go that crazy, but
Yep.
you still have to know who your audience is and where they are. I see this problem in with a lot of people. Even like 2 days ago, I bookmarked a Facebook post where a person was saying, I'm creating content, retirement content for for people, and my target audience is 50 to 80 years old, but those people don't listen to podcasts. I don't know what to do, right?
Yep.
So that podcast is not the right thing for you. You cannot decide that you listen to 50 podcasts, so you love podcasts, so you're going to create a podcast, and then why the 80-year-olds are not listening to your
Not
podcast.
listening.
That,
Yeah.
that is the wrong way to approach, right? So you have to know who your audience is and where they are, and create content that can reach them in that platform. So if you think they watch YouTube videos, create your YouTube video, remove the audio, and put it on your podcast. And now your podcast, it's just another content marketing tool. So you're not relying on your podcast to bring you content, but because you already have the content, now you're creating a podcast.
Ah.
So the mind shift completely changes. And now your focus is on, okay, these people are on Facebook, right? 50 to 80, they're probably on Facebook, because it's a very easy platform. It's been around for a long time. All their grandkids and kids and all their family is on there. That's
Yep.
probably where they are. They're not going to be on TikTok. They're not going to be on Instagram. They're not going to be listening to podcasts, right? So you have to know who your audience is. And same way, if your audience is, you know, uh, 8 to 20 years old, 20-year-olds,
Yep.
they're not going to be on Facebook, right? And they're probably not listening to podcasts, even though the age is expanding for podcast listeners. They're still not at that level of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Hmm.
where they're saying, okay, I need to expand my horizons, I need to expand my knowledge and my worldview. They're not thinking at that level. They're still thinking, how do I get tickled and teased and go into a laughter frenzy for 10 seconds. That's all they care about. So they're looking at 10-15 second videos,
Yep.
which means Instagram and and TikTok,
Yep.
those things. Um, so so once you have your niche down, then figure out your audience, and that will lead you to what you need to do to create more content, and what kind of content, whether you should create Kindle books or again, books are a different beast altogether. Anybody can write a book,
Hmm.
even if there's not a single person in your audience, age group or demographic, who reads a book. it doesn't matter. You should still write a Kindle book, right? Because a Kindle book allows you to, before you write a book, you'll brainstorm, you're using a mind map, hopefully, and you'll get a lot of ideas. You use those ideas to become chapters. You use that opportunity of writing a book to distill your thoughts, put it all together, organize them, structure them, and put it out into the world. Give it away for now. If you just said, hey, sign up for my free report on my website, everybody and their dog has a free report, right?
Of
But
course.
if you the same report were to be a $5 or $4.99 Kindle book, which has 15 five-star reviews, the whole perceived value of the report now just went through the roof. Now, because Kindle books still have a certain value in people's minds, there's
Hmm.
still certain credibility and respect. Because if you say, "Hey, I'm a webinar creator," nobody cares,
Yeah.
because the average person doesn't care what a webinar is, and they're like, oh, I see all these people promoting these webinars, big deal. But if you're an author, even though your webinar might have taken you 50 hours and your book took you 10 hours to write, the level of respect and credibility is completely different. So I would say, you should start with an ebook, a
Yeah.
Kindle book, and give it away for free, get reviews, increase the perceived value of that, and then use that as also as a report. Give it away. Say, hey, my $5 Kindle book can be yours for free if you just leave me a review, or if you sign up for my list, you can promote it on your podcast, like I do on my podcast all the time. I give away my Kindle books for free, a lot, in
Lots of
exchange
value.
for, yeah, in exchange for joining my list. Or sometimes I'll say, all you have to do is just post a link to my podcast on your Facebook page, on your Facebook profile, and just say a few kind words about me. And I'll even make fun of myself and say, hey, can you post a link to my podcast and say, I love Ravi's podcast, he has the best Indian accent ever, or he is the best looking Indian podcaster ever.
By a long
I'll
way.
Yeah, so I'll say something silly like that, and I'll say, if you just post a link, then and just tag me, and I'll give you this new course or video or whatever. So I keep creating lead magnets all the time, and a Kindle book is a fantastic way to increase the perceived value of your reports.
Thank you so much. You're sharing so much gold on this call today. Thank you. I love it. I'm wondering, so we've talked about a few things. You've answered a few key questions about how to start up. We've just touched on this idea of a freemium versus perceived value through exchanging of a dollar, essentially, and that how that shifts everybody's perceived perception of I guess, your venture, your business. Now, I wonder, where was it in time that you decided that podcasting was a good idea for you?
Uh, Podcasting was the last remaining thing that I had not conquered in the land of digital marketing, so to speak. I had been listening to podcasts for many, many years. Early in the 2000s, there used to be a show called uh, the the Tech Guy.
Mm-hmm.
So his name was Leo Laporte, and he's like hugely popular, millions and millions of downloads. He still has one of the biggest radio shows and audio shows on ever to be created. So I used to listen to this guy, and there were a couple of other talk shows. I used to listen about saving money and finances and managing your funds and stuff like investment and things like that. There used to be radio shows, but I could never get to a radio at the time that the shows came on. So I would go hunting online to see if there was a way to listen to them later. And some of them started publishing their audio online, so I would download the MP3 file and put it on some stupid ugly MP3 player back then, and
Back in
then
the
then I
day.
would back in the day, and I would listen to it, commuting on the subway in New York City or whatever, and going back even before that, in my childhood days, we had we got a television for the first time in my house when I was 8 years old. I still remember I was playing outside, and my dad said, "Hey, come look what's happening here." And I went in, and we had a TV, and it was a black and white TV, and it was such an exciting time. And there was only one channel in India at the time, and they only had enough programming for about 2 hours a day, right? It's like 6 to 8 p.m. or something like that. and then the fast forward a few years later, we got a color television, which was a huge event in our neighborhood. And One of the first channels we got outside of that one stupid channel that we used to have was CNN. And we used to watch Larry King live, my dad and I. So it was just fascinating to see Larry King have such deep conversations with people, and so it felt like you were. It was never felt like an interview. It literally felt like you were a fly on the wall
Yeah.
in that room, listening to amazing guests having such fantastic conversations. Larry King was one of the greatest interviewers of all time. So I fell in love with the talk show format back then. And fast forward many years later, I come to the US, I'm downloading MP3 files, and then Apple comes out with the iPod Touch. I got it, fell in love right away.
Mm-hmm.
iTunes, got into the iTunes world, and then iPhone and all the stuff. Then started subscribing to podcasts in the true format through an RSS feed. And I never really thought about. I had created videos, audio books. I had created audiobooks and sold audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
I create a bunch of MP3 files, put it on my website, sell access to them using DAP, and just give access to people. They could go there and click and play and listen to that or download it. But it never uh, crossed my mind that I should start a podcast, because I always had, in spite of all my upbringing of not, of being fearless and shameless and all that stuff, not worrying about what other people think, there was still something lingering in my head about my accent, that I thought that, because I had listened to a few uh, Indian podcasters, with no offense to Indians, but their accent was so bad.
So strong.
I very strong. I
Yeah.
could not listen to them, and I was like, "Oh my God, am I going to sound like this? Are people going to laugh at me?" Because being an Indian, if I can't deal with it, what will people from other cultures think about my accent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing, if you see in movies, the sexiest accents are the French. Even Russians are fantastic.
Yep.
Italians are sexy. The one thing you will never find portrayed as sexy is the Indian accent. Okay, Indian accent is always used for comedy by both Indians and non-Indians. We have a terrible accent,
Is that why
and our
Bollywood's so popular?
exactly. Right, in our country, it is not considered an accent
Uh-huh.
because
Yeah,
that's
of
how we
course.
talk. so, so I had all these preconceived notions in my head, and even though I'm very self-deprecating, but I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't care about going on stage and talking for an hour,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't care if because I'm providing value. This electric energy on stage, and I'm able to convey it through my body and my actions and everything else, my energy.
Yep.
So I didn't care about that, but it terrified me. If when thinking of, I have to, somebody's going to put on headsets and listen to deeply to what I'm talking about, and maybe they're going to cringe at my accent. So I had all these crazy things, and it took me maybe I delayed my podcast by about 6 months, not too much. So
Mm-hmm.
once the idea popped into my head, and I said, okay, now this is the last frontier, just so to speak. I have to get into podcasting because I'm such a avid podcast listener. And every time I got to the point where I would listen to podcast and I would like, man, that is not true. There are better ways to do
Ah.
something like that.
Yep. Yep.
And the more it kept nagging and gnawing at me, so, to put out better content, to correct some of these things that I was hearing. And I had such strong opinions about a lot of these things. And that's another thing that you need to have before you start a podcast, or put yourself out there, has a meaning behind it, right? When you say put
Yep.
yourself out there, it's because you have strong opinions, and you have strong opinions only when you have done something for a long time and have had a chance to develop an opinion, leave alone a strong opinion. So you have to have a little bit of thick skin, you have to have strong opinions, and obviously you have to be aware enough and humble enough to correct yourself and apologize uh, if you made a mistake, or if you said something that's not true, or later on learned that there's a better way to do it, especially in digital marketing. So all that, that's what got me going with podcasting. and
Mm-hmm.
and even after that, it's just about what more can I say, how can I share something better. It's always about sharing my message with my listeners. And the way I approach my podcast is I never worry about wasting any content, because the podcast content that I create can be repurposed into video, into audiobooks, into Kindle books, into reports, into blog posts. So any content I create, I'm always thinking this can go into literally 10 different platforms right now. So nothing I create is ever a waste.
Thank you so much. Now, I know that we could spend a lot more time talking about podcasting specifically and breaking down your wonderful book on podcasting, but we're not going to be able to go through the whole how to start a podcast in 7 hours. What I'd prefer to do at this point in the call is maybe share a little bit about how people, Ravi, can contact you and how they can get their hands on all of your good work.
Yeah, the best way to reach me is my website, subscribeme.fm. And my email is Ravi, that's RAV as in Victor I, at subscribeme.fm. And if you go to my website, you can find a beautiful player at the top, which shows my podcast. You can listen to my entire podcast there, or search for subscribeme.fm as one word in your favorite podcast app, whether that's Spotify, Overcast, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is. And on my website, you'll find information about my books, my coaching program, my products and services, and everything else in between. And you can also contact me from there.
Thank you so much, Ravi. Now, everybody who's on the show today, you've heard it from the man himself. There's a lot that you can do with the content that you're creating, and this has just been a fantastic journey with Ravi today. Ravi, we have been incredibly privileged to be able to take you away from your busy day to spend some time with us on the My Future Business show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Rick. It's been a great pleasure. You are a fantastic interviewer, and that got me going. And I hope I didn't ramble too much, and I was able to provide some value for your listeners.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.